to the Inner Podcast, where you get to embrace your inner nerd. I'm your host, Aaron.
And I'm your host, Brandon.
Brandon, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. I wish I utilized today more, but it is what it is.
Getting late on that laundry,
Yeah.
as usual.
Well, I wouldn't say late. As usual.
As usual.
I'm always on time with my laundry. Today was just a fumble. I got distracted watching a little too much Doctor Who, and here we are.
Just a little disclaimer for the audience. Brandon might sound a little nervous from time to time because we have an audience today, but that shouldn't change anything. We are doing just fine, and we will do just fine going forward.
I'm not nervous. I'm winded from running up and down stairs.
I think you're all flustered. Are you blushing?
I'm literally
just messing with you.
Kick your ass. Like running up and down stairs in the heat in jeans.
Yeah, why are you wearing jeans?
Because
it's like 80-something degrees right now.
Because I got toothpaste on my last pair of shorts, and they're white shorts. I did want to turn on a fan.
I did notice you were wearing makeup today.
No, I would. I mean, I would turn on a fan, but you're wuss.
Well, hey, I don't want there being a loud humming noise in the back when I'm editing this.
I can turn it down.
Anyways, Brennan, I have a question for you, and I'll open this up to our audience member if he has any insight on this. There's a meme going around right now. 100 men versus one gorilla.
Hasn't that been around for like
it's kind of
years
it's
now?
kind of re-emerging right now.
So like is that the question?
Yeah, like who would win, 100 men or one gorilla? I think there's a very legitimate, like, scientifical answer to this, but
personally,
some people have their own opinions.
Well, I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks that like no man, like just like with no weapons or anything, could stop a gorilla.
Right.
But there's a part of me that wants to say that if there's 100 men up against a gorilla,
right,
the gorilla would wipe out a majority of them, like with zero effort. But eventually, one of the many 100 men would pin the gorilla down, or like just kind of like overwhelm it, and rather neutralize it. Or if you're talking about like till the death, then.
Well, here's the thing. Gorillas actually get winded really quick. They've got a lot of body mass and they're really heavy, and
right.
They will get winded really quick.
Yeah.
And also in this fight, this isn't like men with weapons or anything like that. Like, they have to go barehanded and be just as, in this hypothetical, they have to be just as aggressive as the gorilla.
Right.
I honestly think the gorilla would only take out like 10 guys before like a World War Z style horde of men topple the thing and beat the shit out of it.
So it's kind of like my answer, just it takes out less men.
Yeah, I don't think it would take out that many. It's 100 people. Imagine 100 people in a room.
No, I know, but I don't know. I guess I just give the gorilla more credit just because they do get winded fast, but they're heavy hitters. Like they are a force to be reckoned with.
But I'm just saying, like, as much as like a bear, for instance.
Right.
A bear, as strong as it is, and in a lot of hypotheticals, even though some people think the gorilla would win, a bear would win a grizzly bear would win a fight against a gorilla. But a grizzly bear can be taken down by a pack of wolves.
Is there proof that a grizzly bear can take down a gorilla?
Well, it's heavier, it's got thicker skin, more muscle mass, and it's got razor sharp claws and teeth. So
true. Because I know that was a question for a while too.
I think a grizzly bear would win.
Because I think the question was like what was it? Like grizzly bear up against like a silverback gorilla or something like that.
I mean, yeah, silverback is a little bit more specific. It's a lot bigger and whatever, but just like, yeah, a gorilla, it's regardless. If a bear can be taken down by a pack of wolves, a gorilla can be taken down by 100 men easily.
Fair.
And probably within a few minutes, I'd say.
Those, I mean,
and it wouldn't even take all 100 men to do it.
Yeah, probably. They're more of just like backup in case the gorilla gets like their second wind.
So we're in agreement. The men would win.
Yeah. Usually I like these kind of conversations, but not about real things. I don't know why. I love the question of like who would win this or this. But
right.
Typically, especially between us, it usually goes between like comic book characters or fictional characters.
As much as I like those conversations too, I think as time goes on, I'm starting to kind of have the Stan Lee look at those conversations where it's like, you know, a bunch of different people wrote these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who's writing it, this person will write this character to win and this person will write this character to win.
True.
And it's like, yes, there are a lot of statistics to say this and this and this and that, but it's like at the end of the day, it's a fictional character who's writing it this time around.
That's fair. How I like to look at it, though, is like, yes, it's mainly just the statistics. Like, I try not to be biased because some of the characters that we even put up against are like two of our favorite characters.
Right.
And then my mind's like, okay, if I'm not biased and I strictly just base this on like fact, like what could the outcome possibly be? And yeah, because I even see stuff, especially with some stuff that's come out recently, like the Doomslayer versus Master Chief.
Yeah.
And you could rather be biased and just be like have an immediate answer, or you could be like, well, realistically, based on the math, you're wrong. But
right.
But yeah, those are still fun.
Anyways, you kind of brought. Whoops.
Ooh.
My phone's going off. You kind of brought this up before we started recording, but trailers.
Yeah.
A lot's happened in the past couple weeks since we last recorded.
Because we're slacking.
The first one that I kind of want to just get out of the way, low-key to piss you off a little bit.
Oh.
Spider Noir. An actual trailer for not Noir Spider-Man, not Spider-Man Noir. It's Spider Noir.
Yeah.
From Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks very good. I think it looks like Sin City.
Yeah. First off, the quality looks like someone was like, oh, well, you know what would really work well with this is Sin City. Like they saw the style that they went for from Shattered Dimensions, and they're like that, but like adjust it to make it more like Sin City, and you have perfection. But for some fucking reason, they decided to cast Nicolas Cage as...
I don't know. I really don't know what the thought process is behind this show, because the comic books are probably the best source of reference for Spider-Man Noir, just like anything else, but more specifically this character, not the Into the Spider-Verse version of the character.
And it's not like there's multiple sources. Like, aside from like Into the Spider-Verse, there's only there's only one version of the story. It's not like someone came in a few times later.
It's not like it's been retconned or rewritten. Like there's one
story.
Yeah, one series.
Like even other dimensions, like the Ultimate Dimension or the 2099, they have their retcons and their rewrites and stuff like that. But Noir has never changed.
Right.
It can't be that hard to just stick to the source material.
I'm curious how right, if at all, they'll get some of the history or origin related stuff to the Noir Spider-Man, because we don't really know much about the Noir Spider-Man based on the Into the Spider-Verse continuity or whatever. So we don't know if he got his powers the same way, if he has the same powers, or his morality and stuff like that.
I have a feeling like, I mean, it's purely just a guess, but I have a feeling like it's nothing remotely close to the original story.
I think they're going to try to do a twist on like the original Peter Parker's like 616 story.
Yeah.
They're going to just try to do like a 30s to 50s spin on that.
Yeah. I mean, in a very small way, the original version of the Noir Spider-Man is that, but there's a lot more of its era that's tied into it, like the Great Depression.
Yeah, but there's also like other aspects, like there's, instead of it being like a research center, like a field trip thing, it's like a museum. And
yeah, and it's like a mystical spider. It's not like a radioactive spider.
Right, and like his powers still work a little different. And
yeah, and I mean, and that's something else I'm curious about too, because there's small details like, oh, Spider-Man can't climb on walls in the Noir universe. Like, he can physically, but because he's wearing leather gloves and thick combat boots, he can't climb on walls.
And I don't remember in the trailer, did he have black webs?
I don't remember seeing any webs. I remember seeing him do the hand motion, but I don't actually remember seeing any webs. And it was very distracting too. Like, all I could think
It really just looked like Sin City. I couldn't.
It literally looked like a fan-made trailer.
A little bit.
Like, someone just somehow managed to get Nicolas Cage to like hold, what was it? He was like holding something at the end.
I don't remember.
But they got him to film that, and then the rest was just a bunch of guys in outfits, and they just
it looked like similar quality to something. Not that it's a bad thing, but I just mean in terms of like budget and resources.
Right.
It looked like something that the Corridor crew would make.
Yeah, because like this is also coming out on Amazon.
Right. Who now own James Bond, by the way.
That's so weird.
So
is the next James Bond going to come out on Amazon?
It'll be produced by them, just like the new Accountant is.
That's
but
weird.
it won't be like a exclusive.
Oh, okay.
But it's just they own the property now. The family that used to own James Bond no longer owns it.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, because that might mean that Amazon's like, oh, well, this has always been such a great idea for James Bond, so we're going to do it.
Yeah,
it's
I think
not actually a great idea.
The Weekly Planet actually pointed it out, saying that what we're probably going to start seeing more of if and when there's a next James Bond is we're probably going to be seeing a lot of spin-offs, like in the form of shows. Like we'll probably, the way they put it is there'll probably be like a Moneypenny show or an M origin story or something like that.
Which is stuff that I
don't necessarily care for. We're there to watch James Bond or potentially another 00 agent. That'd be cool, but
yeah,
other than that, I don't really care. Next trailer. This one I'm actually pretty excited for. I know you're not, but I think there's an interesting conversation behind it. Peacemaker, Season 2.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
did you see the trailer for it?
I did not see the trailer. I've seen bits, like just quick, like scenes from it, and then I saw like people who've taken like snapshots of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the quote unquote alternate universe Peacemaker,
right?
Which a lot of people think they're guessing. They think is Clayface.
Oh,
because obviously James Gunn has introduced Clayface in the DCU already, but they think that this version of Peacemaker is going to be like manipulated by a Clayface version of himself.
I've also seen a theory that because it looks more like the comic book version of Peacemaker, that it's the comic book Peacemaker.
Interesting. I will say he looks way better. The alternate version.
I had a feeling you would say that.
Yeah, he looks less stupid. and based on the quick scenes that I have seen of him, he acts more like the comic book Peacemaker, which I actually enjoy, despite the fact that it's still John Cena.
What I'm curious to find out is in this there's a part of the trailer where it shows Rick Flag and he's like
Yeah. The Prime Minister, right?
so that's the thing. I think so I know that's the case for Superman.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that's the case in this one. Like I know in Superman at that point he's the director of what is it called? Argent?
I don't know. Argent. The only thing I know Argent from.
Wait,
is
yeah,
from
wait.
Doom.
Yeah, I was about to say that's Doom. I forgot what it's called, but like the organization that Amanda Waller runs.
I don't
I'm pretty
remember.
sure he's the director of it by the time Superman rolls around.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming maybe that the show will kind of be that transition point for him.
Maybe.
Other than that, I guess there's not a crazy ton to say. I think it looks as funny as the first show. I mean, it's not a show to be taken super seriously.
Yeah.
But in terms of like production quality and writing, I think it'll be a pretty interesting show. I'll be interested to see how they tie in some of the loose ends from the first show now that they're like switching universes.
Yeah. If that's something you're interested in. If you're like me, then you'll never know.
I think, I don't know. I think it would be an interesting. I think just like Creature Commandos, I think you could get a lot of context out of like the new Superman movie, for instance, if you watch Peacemaker, probably. Just a thought.
Maybe.
I think that
It'd be kind of weird though, because the first Peacemaker you have some Zack Snyder in it, and then the second Peacemaker you have some.
Well,
James
I think
Gunn in
we've
it.
talked about that before, but from my understanding, essentially what it's going to be is that everything is still
Like a soft transition.
it's like everything is still canon. Like the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie is canon,
Right.
and the Peacemaker show is canon, but it's just like the characters in the show will remember everything. They'll remember the new continuity
Right.
while the audience remembers the old continuity.
Yeah.
So it's just like a perception type thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Either way, I thought it was interesting. So I thought I'd bring it up. I have quite a few things we could talk about.
I mean,
Do you want
another trailer that came out?
Which one?
Superman.
Superman. Yes. We talked about this a little bit already.
Yeah.
I think Superman's going to be like the movie of the year.
It might be.
Like I think Fantastic Four will be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I know Thunderbolts was really well received, and there is a chance that Jurassic World Rebirth does better than the previous movies.
Yeah.
Especially given a new story, new director, kind of new direction for the franchise.
The new Jurassic Park trailer kind of scared me a little bit, just because there are some Marvel tropes in there that I wasn't a huge fan
I think
of.
there's definitely going to be a lot of like some remaining, like you said, tropes that'll carry over because they know that that's what sells.
Right.
And regardless if it's good or not, Jurassic World Park movies or whatever, they sell seats.
Yeah.
It's just a fact. Even the last one that not a lot of people talk about made quite a lot of money.
Still never seen it.
I haven't seen it either. But regardless of how good those are, I think Superman will be the one movie that stands out. Like not even just comic book movies. I think Superman will be like the movie.
That's
like if it was allowed, like if comic book movies were recognized in Oscars, I don't think a part of me thinks that they should be kept out of the conversation of Oscars in some cases. Like there's a lot of things that they do deserve, but I could see why keeping comic book movies out of the conversation of Oscars could just helps because there could be an overflow of like comic book related stuff being shown at the Oscars.
Yeah,
while the
I
Oscars
guess.
are trying to like hone in on more like original standalone stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it weird that like movies like Dune can win awards, but a movie like or
I
Superman.
mean, it's like yeah, it's based on a book, but it's a standalone franchise.
I know, but like there's still a lot of superhero movies. Maybe not recently, but there's still a lot of superhero movies where I'm like, maybe this could act or win like actor of the year or writer of the year or visual effects.
I mean, it's the thing is comic book movies aren't completely kept out of Oscars. Black
Right.
Panther won Oscars.
True.
The Dark Knight won Oscars.
Yeah.
I think I could be wrong. I think a comic book movie this past Oscars.
No?
I don't know, but it's not unheard of.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like it's easy to keep them out of the conversation more so because of how often they come out.
Yeah.
And like if you were more lenient on it, they would just kind of overtake the Oscars.
Yeah.
Where it's easy for that to happen. But regardless, I think it's just going to be a great movie. I have a lot of theories on how the movie will play out and like who Ultraman is.
Someone made a post that agrees with that
Oh, that
theory.
it's Bizarro.
Yeah, because there's a scene of him flying in what looks like space. And there's a beam that comes towards him that looks like heat vision.
What?
Yeah.
Space.
Well, I can't really describe the area, but it's not like on Earth. There's no way. Like it's rather the Phantom Zone or outer space or something. It doesn't look right. But there's like oh, that's another thing is because everything around them is like floating. And there's an object, like it looks like a piece of like a temple or something. And from that temple, there's a beam that shoots by and that he dodges.
Oh.
But it's one beam.
Yeah, but the hammer of Baravia can shoot one beam.
But isn't that a giant robot?
No.
Oh, well, yeah.
It's a guy in a suit.
People did mention that as well. But it's still like because the Ultraman's in it, there's the possibility that because we can't see the person from how far they are, there's like a 50-50 chance that person in the one beam that's coming by is Bizarro.
Why would it be one beam though?
Because Bizarro, he
has ice vision and fire breath.
Right, but in some depictions of his fire breath, it can come out as like a beam, like Doomsday from Zack Snyder.
Knowing James Gunn, it'll be fire breath.
Yeah, but I don't know. But I think still people agree with what you're saying.
I think it's too plausible, and it's almost like they're taking up an opportunity that the boys missed out on. Like it's quite literally like they looked at the boys, they were like, oh, they didn't do like the biggest twist in the comic books.
Yeah.
Let's do it for our movie.
Right.
And plus, like, there's no other reason why they would have like a masked person in the trailers unless there was going to be a reveal. Because you know who everyone else is.
Also,
and the Hammer of Baravia is an original character, so there's no point in like hiding his identity.
Right. There's something that I mentioned to you, but when we first saw the trailer, and someone else, I saw a post of someone agreeing with me.
Which is?
How Superman reacts during the interview between him and Lois, which we have made a discussion about like both sides of the story, like one side of why he didn't react the way he should have, and then one giving him like a reason why it was okay to react that way. But someone played out the scene from Civil War, like Captain America Civil War, when they're all first talking about the Jakova. What is it? The thing that they have to sign.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I just forgot what it's called.
The way that the way that Steve Rogers is talking to Tony about like their freedom to choose, like when they don't help people, and like just the way he says a lot of that stuff is the way that Superman normally would have said something in the comic book.
I feel like the contexts are very different, though. Because first off, Captain America, regardless what people might think, Captain America and Superman are still very different characters. And
True.
Superman in this state, one, isn't as experienced as Captain America in this movie. At least that's what I'm putting together based on his age and where he is.
Right.
Anyway, but I honestly think that he... Really?
What?
I'm cutting that out.
It's not the first time I've done that.
But I honestly just think it's like he went in, sure, like Lois said, he went in not really thinking about it or whatnot. He just went in being like, I'm gonna stop a war.
Yeah.
But not sure wasn't thinking about any consequences to that. But when he's coming out of it, he's just overwhelmed with the idea that people are like, why did you do that? Why did you stop a war?
I mean,
and he's like, what do you mean? Why did I stop a war? And as he gets frustrated, people were going to die. Like, why wouldn't I stop it? But people are like, but you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to go over there.
But to a similar degree, the Avengers, they stop an invasion and something that could destroy the entire planet. Sure, it did cost lives, but in the grand scheme of things, the entire world was saved. And in doing so, they're being punished by having to be monitored by the government.
Right, but in the context, in the Avengers, every time that they had these major fights were in the middle of a cityscape. And instead of, like, according to the government in the Avengers, they didn't take the fight elsewhere or, quote unquote, prevent the fight. They had the fight in the midst of a city.
I mean, to be fair, it's not like they can control where the fight is.
Right, and that's their argument. But Superman, in the middle of what looks like just a battlefield, not a city, like an actual warlike open plain battlefield, comes in the middle of it and stops it.
Okay, but despite those details, it's purely just how they react to the situation. And sure, this isn't as an experienced Superman, but depending on, especially based on the source material of the character, he still would have reacted differently.
I purely just think that it's like, unless we see the movie, maybe unless we get more context, there's just not a lot we can or should say.
Fair.
And it's not like he hit Lois. It's not like he was abusive and he's like, you stop yelling at me, you bitch. It's just like he was like overwhelmed and frustrated.
No, I know. Someone did also point out the fact that he did what Christopher Reeves did as far as like the whole voice changing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
I also think that it's just really interesting how they write his dialogue, because I could believe that Henry Cavill's Superman came from like a small town. He's just like a very humble, grounded guy. Mm-hmm. But David Cornsweet's Superman is like the first time we've ever seen like a Superman that really acts like he's from the Midwest, that he's like from a farm, because he's got kind of like that Midwest like football quarterback energy when he's like, all right, big guy, eyes up here, and like takes off. Or he calls Lois, what does he call her? Cronkite. It's like an old
when did he call her that?
When she's like, you ready? And he's like, ready, Cronkite.
Oh.
It's like slang for press or something.
I guess I missed that.
But what I'm just saying is that they're giving him more of that small town character, I guess.
Right.
There's probably a lot more I could say, but Superman is just kind of one of those things that I really just would like to talk more about that when it comes out.
Yeah.
Because the trailers, regardless how much they've shown, it's very clear that there's a lot we don't know.
Right.
So until we do know, it's not much to say.
Yeah.
All I know is that it looks really exciting. Despite what some people have ridiculously complained about, I think it's going to be a great movie and potentially the biggest movie of this year. That and like Fantastic Four will probably rival each other a little bit. But I think Superman will come out on top.
I think they're also kind of competing against Mission Impossible just for the sake that it's the last movie.
I don't know. IGN's already come out with their rating, and it's like a 6 out of 10.
I don't care about IGN.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that, like, if critics are already like, no, it's okay. Superman will definitely come out on top. A James Gunn movie, regardless, is just bound to land. All of his prior work has said so.
That's very subjective.
Well, I understand we don't like Guardians of the Galaxy, but we're part of a very select few that is trampled by the mass majority that love Guardians of the Galaxy. And
I'm also just okay with Suicide Squad.
I think
it was an enjoyable movie, but there's a lot I would still change about it if I had the ability to.
Okay, but if we're looking at this box office wise, James Gunn makes money.
True.
And that's probably one of the reasons they were like, yeah, we need this guy.
Right.
And he also just understands comic books. He knows how to write comic book characters.
Yeah.
This one I quickly want to just go through really quick. I've briefly brought it up before, and a lot of people are still talking about it. And we just got to get ready because people are going to be talking about it for the next, 15 years of our life. October of next year, GTA 6 will come out.
Oh, God.
And it's going to take over everything. It's going to take over social media. It's going to take over games as we know it. Anything that releases around or after GTA is going to struggle because everyone's going to be continuously buying and paying for stuff for GTA. They'll probably do what they did with Red Dead Redemption, and the releases of both the main game and the online will be like probably a couple months apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2 different release dates that they'll have for GTA.
Right.
And then who knows when it'll happen because it's only slated for consoles. The day will come that they're able to get it on PC, and that'll make it worse.
Yeah.
And again, that'll be all of that together will be like 15 years of our life that we'll be hearing people talk about GTA.
Yeah.
And there will probably be the day that I'll finally try it and I'll be like, damn, this game's good.
We'll see.
Because that kind of happens with Rocksteady games. At first I look at it, I'm like, here we go again. And then I play it and I'm like, damn, I get it.
I don't know. I was kind of hooked as soon as Red Dead Redemption 2 was announced. I was surprisingly like, that actually looks like a fun game. Because at that time I never played Red Dead Redemption 1 and I never really cared to. But then 2 came out, loved it. GTA 5, I've never played the story. I think I played the first mission. I did some multiplayer with friends, and that was like fun for a little bit, but it got old really quick. So I just gonna assume that GTA 6 will be the same. Maybe I'll watch some videos on it. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's other games that I care more about.
Yeah.
Like the new GTA game doesn't faze me at all.
Speaking of new games, you're playing Doom,
Yeah,
the Dark
I am.
Ages right now.
Yes, I am.
And you're, what, like 3/4 of the way through?
Yeah, I'm on
Or 3/4. Wait.
Well, so there's 22
That's not
chapters.
quarters.
There's 22 chapters. I think I'm on 15 or 16 now.
Okay. And out of what, 22?
Yeah. It's amazing. I had my gripes about just one thing, but it seems like the further I get into the game, that one thing kind of reemerges a little bit because I really enjoyed the executions from the first and second game. They were extremely easy to do. Like as soon as an enemy got weak, they would like flash yellow and then blue when you were nearby, and then you like press a button and then he would like execute them.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on what angle you're doing it from, he would do it in a different way. But this new game, he doesn't execute them the same way. He kind of just hits or kicks them and they just die.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some occasions, and depending on the enemy, if you're coming at them, like if you're leaping at them or if you're coming from above, then he will do an execution. But he doesn't do it all the time. And then there are some sequenced moments where it's like kind of like a small cutscene,
right,
where he'll do it. I don't know. I'm not sure if this is to a point where I should start like talking about spoilers, but overall, maybe this is just biased, but it's an amazing game. I get so addicted to it, and every single time that I've played it, because I've only played it in 2 sessions. I don't really want to stop playing it. The only reason why I was more willing to stop last night, as of recording this, I was like, 1, it's late, and 2, if I keep playing, I'm gonna beat it already.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a sad thought, but at the same time, it's what I ask for. I always talk about how I like story-driven games, and it's just that. It's story-driven all the way through. A little bit of free roaming on almost every map.
I've seen some of the I've been watching some gameplay. I've seen how much platforming there is in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks interesting because like he can climb. There's like some wall surfaces he can like scale, and there's like a way he can like throw a shield into something and like pull himself to it.
Right, because like the shield's magnetic, so he can like use a reverse effect basically,
where it like gets stuck in something and he pulls himself.
Yeah, and the climbing was also an eternal. Sorry.
I didn't play much of Eternal.
That's just one of the recycle things that they did in Eternal. They were like these like gridded platforms, and then
right.
In this game, there's like these glowing yellow cracks,
right?
And they'll be painted, and then if you find them, you can climb on it. Yeah, and they have like some puzzles that are cool. They're not like super complicated puzzles, but every now and then you'll come across one where you have to use some brain power. But it's really fast paced, obviously. It's almost nonstop action. And even the difficulty that I'm playing it on normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then just for fun, I even increased the amount of damage that I can apply to enemies. And I'm still having difficulties. I haven't like died yet, but you can, just like in the other games, you can collect like these glowing helmets that can revive you.
Right.
And there have been some times where I'll use one, but then I just restock on it. So I haven't like fully died yet. But it's still difficult. And there's been a lot of scary moments where I'm like, oh, I think I'm actually going to die right now.
I saw this cutscene with like the robot or like the mech that he operates, and or there was like a mech that was being piloted before he gets involved that gets like thrashed by a Titan or whatever.
Yeah.
It looks like a Jaeger.
It does.
The way that they run and how like elongated their arms and legs are, but with like the really stout like torsos and heads.
Yeah.
I was like, it looks just like a Jaeger.
They're just not as big.
Right.
Which is so weird because while you're playing the game, you're like, oh, that thing's huge. But then there's one point when you actually like, you're piloting it and then you put your arm on something so you can get out of the head and then climb up the arm. But if you look back on it and you're like, it's big, but it's not that.
It's not like a Jaeger.
Yeah, because Jaegers, like, humans are like,
can fit in the head.
Like 2 people fit in the head, but they're really small in the head.
Right.
While like the Doomslayer takes up maybe like 1/8 of the head.
Gotcha.
So they're surprisingly not that big. But it's still fun because they also have other. It's the first game that has different forms of gameplay. They have turret gameplay. They have the mech gameplay, and then they have the dragon gameplay, and that's a lot of fun. So, yeah, it's I think Doom. Like, I've always been in love with Doom, but I genuinely think now Doom is my number one favorite franchise. Video game franchise. But I'm having lots of fun with it, and I can't wait to play it again. Unfortunately, I think the next time I play it, I probably will beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is always like a sad thought, like beating a game, one that you've waited so long for, and you beat it in like 2 or 3 days. But
Right.
it's still great.
I'm sorry, I got kind of stumped. I have this note, but I have no idea what it is.
What does it say?
It says the paper first look.
The paper.
I have no idea what that means.
I wish I knew. The paper.
Here, sometimes I'll see something on IGN that makes me write stuff down, so I'll just take a quick scan, and I don't see anything. Okay, moving on. Do you want to talk about Thunderbolts?
Well, I figured, it's nerd based, and we did see the movie. We at least should cover something about it, right? Or we could wait for another episode, maybe. If you want to just like...
The thing is I just don't know what we can say that everyone else hasn't said about it already. It's a new story that's definitely trying to go back to the roots of what made the original phases of Marvel so great, because they're picking like underdog characters and they're telling like an actual story with a theme this time around. It's not just about like good guys versus bad guys. It's about like mental health issues and depression and
abuse.
Right. While also tackling, there's a big thing about something that I maybe... I guess I would just leave it to someone else, because there people have also pointed out how it's kind of like the script itself is kind of a play on, or it's almost like an attack on Marvel itself, like the overwhelming amount of content that it's created and how it's to its detriment and trying to recycle the same things over and over again.
Yeah.
When there's like a particular thing about Marvel that made it so great that was left underestimated and kind of left behind. And that's what these characters are. They're characters that were brushed off as a part of a bigger thing, but putting them back in the limelight and expressing what's great about them and how they get along and what their values are. And I don't know. It's not really the only reason I said if you really wanted to talk about it, if you want to go into it more, we can.
I mean, I guess it's more like at this point, it's just personal opinions about certain things about the movie. Like, despite some of the changes that they did make, there's still like some humor stuff that I didn't care for. Like, they could have altered. They didn't need to have it. And if they were like if it was written by like a version of like the first phase of Marvel, those jokes wouldn't have...
What jokes are you referring to?
Well, okay, not like specific jokes, but more of just like how people react to certain things, or like how some characters were trying to be funny in certain points when they didn't need to be. Or like even Yelena, like when they're having like this deep conversation and she ends it off like, yeah, that was pretty good. Like while she's like crying, but like giving her dad a compliment, but it like comes off as like this kind of like funny moment
Right.
in like a realistic situation, or even in a Marvel Phase 1 situation, that conversation would not have gone that way. Even the Red Guardian himself is like, he's sure they needed like a comedic relief, but there was a time in Marvel when they didn't need that.
On the note of comedic relief, but I'm also super dead serious. If I'm ever at a point where I'm comfortable enough to give a hairdresser $300 to do my hair, I'm doing my hair like Yelena's hair. I'm not fucking lying.
She had nice hair in that movie.
Like the way her hair was styled, like her mullet was styled going into the vault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like some tanning lotion and getting my hair bleached and cut properly.
Speaking of style,
I do it.
Speaking of style, I never really thought about it, but have you looked back at the first concept art that they showed when they announced Thunderbolts?
Yeah, it looks very different.
Yeah, all the characters look dramatically different. Bucky looks more like just how he did in.
That was also before they rewrote the movie.
That's true, because I saw the original like plot that they had for the movie.
Right, because the original plot was that Walker, and this was also before they rewrote Captain America: Brave New World,
right,
which also had a different plot before, but because the original plot to Thunderbolts was that Walker was going to be the main villain instead of Sentry, and he was going to essentially be juiced up with a bunch of super soldier stuff, and he was going to become A-Bomb.
Yeah,
but
they were all going to be stuck in that vault for the entire movie.
Right, and when they finally started rewriting and settled on a script for Captain America, they ended up being too similar because of the Red Hulk, and so they had to rewrite Thunderbolts. And that's also, and because of the rewrites, it took them so long because of the writer strikes and stuff, that two of the cast members, one being Sentry and the other being, I forgot who the other one was, but someone else got recasted, and it caused those two recastings. So that's why we got a new Sentry. Louis Pellman, that's what his name is.
Personally, I'm glad they recasted Sentry, because it's no hate to the actor. It's more of just the right person for the right role. And I personally liked this version of Sentry. Sure, they did make changes to his origin a little bit. Mm-hmm. Well, not a little bit, a lot of it. But it still covered everything that it needed to for the Sentry. They did involve a lot of memory issues, which is on point, because there's a whole back and forth thing with the Sentry's mind being wiped and then brought back and then wiped again and brought back, and it's just a whole thing. But I'm personally excited for Sentry. I hope they really give him some more like screen time in the future. I hope they don't. I think you mentioned this, but I hope they don't just use this as an excuse to bring back lazy god vibes.
Oh, like they did with Thor, like Fat Thor.
Right. I hope they don't do that again. If they did it for like 3 minutes in one movie, that's one story. But like doing it throughout a whole movie or a duration of movies, that's But he was the thing I was mainly looking forward to when going to see that, and I enjoyed it. And then the post-credit was awesome.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So at least that means that whatever happens at the end of the Fantastic Four movie, we're probably gonna see them transfer over to the main universe, and the whole crossover stuff we'll probably be seeing relatively soon.
Yeah.
Like, we won't have to expect a whole bunch of context from anything else between now and Avengers.
Also, despite how goofy, because in the post-credit scene, we get kind of like a taste of what the new Avengers are like.
Right.
And how they mainly seem to prioritize their public image. Mm-hmm. That, despite how goofy...
Red Guardian, more specifically.
Well, yeah, but they were all talking about the copyright to the name Avengers. Mm-hmm. Which that's, despite how goofy it is, it's very on point because, again, when Norman Osborn created the new Avengers, there's a whole thing about image and how they only cared about like publicity and how they looked. And that's another reason why most of the villains who were in the new Avengers disguised themselves specifically as heroes, like Hawkeye and Spider-Man and Iron Man and all that jazz.
Right. Yeah.
I don't really have much more to say about it. We kind of covered everything pretty quickly. If we wanted, I'm sure we could dive deep more into it, but it would become more of a one movie deep dive than anything. So,
okay, so I have two more things on my list here.
Okay.
One of them's a lot more long-winded, and one of them's kind of like a short reveal thing.
Okay.
So I'll let you choose. Which one do you want?
Let's get the short one out of the way.
Okay, so this one I think is actually pretty exciting. So, our audience member might find this a little interesting too. I don't know. So there was sorry, let me start over. A lot of people who had previously worked at Rocksteady and have also come from a bunch of other different studios, have all come together and they started this new studio called the Atomic Arcade. And their first really big budget game is going to be an Arkham-like game, rated M, of not only G.I. Joe, but it's going to be a Snake Eyes game. What? And they already, on their website already, there's already 2 motion graphics of like close-ups of Snake Eyes. You don't see his face, but you see like close-ups of him holding like a gun, and then there's another like more actiony pose that's like a close-up of him holding his blade, and like there's blood dripping off of it. But he looks a lot more tactical than Snake Eyes usually looks. Like he's got like pretty advanced gear on, but he's got like fabric tapered over him, and he's got more layers on him. He's got like this crazy gauntlet that's got like a dragon decal on it.
I have to see this.
But yeah, when they were asked if it was going to be like Arkham, like they were saying that they kind of danced around it a little bit, but from what they said, it was essentially like, yes, like that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for like high visuals, super tactical stealth, like action type adventure game.
Right.
So basically, but it's going to be, but they said it's a version that's supposed to be taken very seriously. Like it's not supposed to be goofy. It's not supposed to be as like fun and adventurous as like the G.I. Joe's been depicted lately.
Right.
It's supposed to be a much more like rough and tough, like grittier version of Snake Eyes.
Sweet.
Let me see if I can get it pulled up for you really quick. The Atomic Arcade. Is that it? Yep. So I'll just let you.
Whoa.
So Brandon is currently looking at the Atomic Arcade's website as since the viewers cannot see what's happening right now. It's a pretty elaborate website. It's got like info on all the different devs and their current project, Snake Eyes.
That's awesome. That's honestly extremely exciting because especially seeing how a lot of us were kind of disappointed with Suicide Squad. because
Yeah.
there's a lot of
But these are people from back at
Arkham
Asylum,
right,
like in the beginning of the Arkham franchise.
and probably a lot of people who worked on Arkham Knight as well.
Maybe
Because didn't Arkham Knight's production start right after Asylum was made?
something like because I think it started production like alongside Arkham City.
Yeah, because I think they said it took 8 years to make that game.
Yeah, but I'd say that was just some exciting news that I thought.
That's extremely exciting.
Yeah,
There's
and they're
hope for
already
the
a
game world.
subsidiary of Hasbro, so the game's going to be pretty well funded.
Wow,
So.
there's hope for gaming again.
Don't get ahead of yourself there.
Maybe I'm just really excited with Doom. I'm very satisfied with Doom.
So the more long-winded one, this has been pretty talked about amongst the gaming community, but Ubisoft has officially made their partnership with I don't know what kind of company they are, but they're called Tencent.
Okay.
And so Tencent is essentially funding. There's a lot of more technical stuff to it, but they're essentially funding the major IPs for Ubisoft, like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and then there's one other one that I'm blanking on. But essentially, so it's like stock market wise, they have like all the benefits of making the money of these games,
Right.
but not like any of the stock crashes and so on and so forth. But it means that these games will be funded properly, and the thousands and thousands of people that work across Ubisoft will have jobs.
Right.
But it also means that in the next 6 years, we're going to have 9 different Assassin's Creed games.
Jesus.
So, we already know Jade. Jade is the China game that's going to be mobile.
Right.
But it's a full AAA game on mobile. Invictus will be is essentially it's going to be their first attempt at a fully multiplayer Assassin's Creed game along the lines of the multiplayer of Assassin's Creed Unity.
Ooh.
So it's co-op multiplayer. So it'll be like objectives, get this certain thing done in this certain amount of time.
Right.
But yeah, and they're trying to aim for like matches of up to like 16 players. And they're trying to do the different game types and stuff like that. But it'll be a fully funded and fully standalone multiplayer game. And apparently they took a lot of insight from content creators like Luke Stevens and such about how every time there's going to be a multiplayer game, there's going to be a main launch game released alongside it, so that like none of the diehard Assassin's Creed fans feel left out. First of which being Project Obsidian, which is going to be a full, complete remake of Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Wait a minute.
On their new engine. It's not a remaster. It's a remake. A rebuild in the new Anvil engine.
Of Black Flag.
Obsidian will be the project that recreates Black Flag, yes.
But when they say recreate, are they just saying like recreating a game that is like reminiscent to Black Flag, or actually?
No, it's remaking Black Flag.
Well, okay, so many questions. One, why change the name?
It's going to be one of 2 remakes.
What's the other one?
I'll get to that. And then there's Hex.
Right.
Which has apparently been reworked from what we knew before. It's going to be the first major AAA title from recent games that won't follow the RPG, and it'll be a linear Assassin's Creed game.
Sick. That's the one I was really hoping.
It's not going to be like Mirage, where it's like a smaller game that's held back a little bit to focus on one thing. It'll be a major title that's fully linear,
That's
like older Assassin's Creed games.
That's the one I was hoping would be the one that they choose.
And something that I was right about before is that it does take place during the German witch trials. So much further back in time than the Salem witch trials.
Right.
And it'll have roughly around 2 years of DLC content and support. So it's going to be a pretty extensive amount of gameplay for one game.
That's the one I'm looking forward to.
I think, and there are going to be, to the same degree, the way that they've described it is that to the same degree as older Assassin's Creed games, there will be some supernatural aspects to it that lean into the idea of witchcraft.
Okay.
But what I'm assuming is that it probably means that it's like what the people think is witchcraft, but might actually be like pieces of Eden.
Yeah, that's fine. If they do have anything that's remotely close to like actual witchcraft, I hope it's along the lines of what like Valhalla did and make it to where it's like it's not the character who's involved in it, it's things that they're dealing with, like other people who are like using potions or hallucinogens and stuff like that.
Right. So yeah, I agree. I think that'll probably be like, that's like what I'm really looking forward to.
Same, yeah.
Next is Scarlet, Project Scarlet.
Oh.
Scarlet is the next big RPG after Shadows and will release right after Hex, and support ends for Hex. Further details haven't been pinpointed of what the game is. Speculation is that Assassin's Creed Nebula, which is the game that will take place in 3 different settings. Okay, so Scarlet, there was an Assassin's Creed Nebula game that was part of the announcement some time ago, and it was allegedly supposed to take place in all 3 India, the Mediterranean, and the Aztec Empire.
Wow.
So we're not sure if it somehow takes place in all 3 simultaneously, or if it's like one character that travels to all 3. We don't know. But that'll be the next big like RPG Assassin's Creed game.
Okay.
And then there's Stardust. Stardust is Ubisoft's second remake in the development and will enter production following Obsidian's release, so Black Flag. Mm-hmm. Speculation is that Stardust will probably be one of the original Assassin's Creed games. Wow. A lot of people think it's going to be Assassin's Creed 2, and then others think it'll be just the original Assassin's Creed. Because there's kind of been a big enough spotlight on Altair to potentially do it, but Ezio, and more specifically Ezio's origin, is a big enough story across the Assassin's Creed fandom to where that could be a really well-received remake.
Is that it?
Yeah.
So to put my 2 cents...
Well, there's actually more games, but...
What are the games?
Well, did you want to finish your thought, or do you want me to go through these?
Just go through them, and then I'll just say...
So after that is Emerald. Emerald will launch shortly after Stardust, within a couple of months, and will be another multiplayer title with at least a 5-year plan of game in the game releases and meets internal expectations. This could be the PvE game previously under the codename Raid, or the other multiplayer game under Echoes. It appears at the very least that one of those games have been canceled. But so rather Emerald or the prior multiplayer game, one of them is speculated to be PvP and one of them is speculated to be PvE. So whichever one comes out first, or whichever one ends up being which one of them will be closer to like Assassin's Creed Unity, where like you're completing tasks. Mm-hmm. They've described it as like Fall Guys, where it's like they give you an objective, they give you a course, you do this, but in the form of Assassin's Creed. I don't think that's a great way to describe it, and then one of them will be closer to like the original multiplayer back in the day, where it's like it puts you in a situation you have like side objectives, but you have to sneak around and kill each other.
Right.
So that'll be interesting. And then there's another RPG. Doesn't have like a designated code name, developer, or theme, but it's scheduled to be 2 years after Scarlet. And then there is a speculated third remake. It currently does not have a code name, developer, or game, but the remake will be 1 year after the second RPG. It can be assumed that Ubisoft finds the remake multiplayer game launch synergy successful around this time, and that another multiplayer will also release, but currently that's not planned as we're now 2030 to 2031 by this point. Yeah. So we're looking at 9 games in 6 years.
Okay. So to give my 2 cents on, I'm just going to talk about my opinion for the ones that have more information, not the ones that like
Right.
are more just speculation. But so for the remakes, I mean, we've always talked about the idea of them doing remakes for Assassin's Creed games, and I've talked about how I would love remakes of certain Assassin's Creed games.
Right.
It's just maybe it's more biased, but one, I'm not the biggest fan of Black Flag being one of those remakes because one, it is an older Assassin's Creed game, but it's not nearly as old as some of the ones that could be remade.
Okay.
The one that is remaking the first Assassin's Creed game, that one is just an honorable choice in general. That one should be like the number one choice for any Assassin's Creed game to be remade.
I think the speculation is that it might be too similar to Mirage.
Oh, yeah, but one, honestly, I don't care. Like, depending on how you put it, Assassin's Creed 2 is very similar to Assassin's Creed 1.
Yeah.
So, like, having 2 Assassin's Creed games that are similar to each other, it's not, like, out of the question. But one, as far as, like, the environment goes, like, sure, the entire game could be the exact same, just the gameplay is different and the graphics are updated. That's all I really cared about. It's a great game on its own. And as long as you don't change anything, if you just want to like add more to it, it won't hurt anyone. And again, out of all the Assassin's Creed games, that should be the one. Like the oldest one and like the one that started it all should be the one that gets remade.
Yeah.
But as long as it's treated right, like Dead Space and what have you. Black Flag, I personally don't think, especially for how well the original one did, I don't think it needs to be remade.
I think that's why it's being remade. I think it's because it's the best-selling Assassin's Creed game ever.
Which is so weird, but when surprisingly enough, I am excited for an Assassin's Creed game that has the multiplayer aspect of what Unity was going for. Because I liked that idea. And I wish that I could try it again because I replayed Assassin's Creed Unity not too long ago. And I tried doing the multiplayer, but for some reason it would never work.
Some people have been able to get it to work. I don't know if it's like it's still supported on PC or something, but
I don't know.
I was watching Luke Stevens and he was saying that he's gone back and he's done it recently and he had a blast with it.
Right.
And I was just like, how? Because I remember we tried doing it and it didn't work at all.
I haven't been able to, so I don't know who was able to, but I think that would be a great idea. I'm extremely excited for Jade. Or not Jade, sorry.
Hex.
Because that was the one I was rooting to be the linear story-based one.
Right.
And that's where I personally think Assassin's Creed succeeds the most when they focus purely on story and make it as linear as possible. That's where it becomes the most successful. Usually when they try experimenting is when it starts to go off the rail. I'm not There a few others cool. There's like RPG ones that are coming out and they're experimenting with new ideas. Great, but overall, the first multiplayer one that they're developing is the one I'm probably the most excited for out of multiplayer stuff. Hex is probably the number one game that I'm the most excited for, and then following that would be the remake of the first Assassin's Creed, and then all the other stuff. It's interesting, but one, I'll be more excited once it's like official that these things are like being developed. Not saying that they're not, but we've heard in the past when they've announced like Assassin's Creed ideas and then they were never made. So
Yeah,
once we get like visual proof, like a trailer or something that shows that it's in development, I'll be more excited. But until then, the like 3 that I mentioned are probably the only ones out of the 9 that I care about.
I also just don't. I think that this also means that with this partnership and them focusing on like their big money making titles, that some smaller projects like the remake of Splinter Cell will probably not happen.
Yeah, that's also kind of unfortunate because I've been waiting for a good Splinter Cell game to come out. I liked Blacklist, and I always forget what the one before that was. We played it a lot, but
I forgot it was like Concession or
I keep forgetting what it was called. But that one
Virgins or
was really good, and I wish they would do another one.
yeah.
But that's another reason why, because like I used to say that Assassin's Creed is my number one favorite video game franchise, but it's not anymore. I've been more disappointed than anything. So
Yeah.
it's moved on.
Yeah. Other than that, I was gonna try to talk about Death Stranding, but it's really just a lot of stuff I'm excited for. I know you don't particularly.
I mean, I'm down to hear about it, but yeah, it's probably going to be a very one-way conversation.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe unless there's something different to talk. I mean, there is actually a lot to talk about.
We could cover it in the next one too.
Maybe. The only other news that I was a little excited for and kind of came out of nowhere is I don't know if you remember Game Informer was shut down some time ago.
I didn't know that.
Because they were owned by GameStop and GameStop stopped funding them and they ended up getting closed down. But out of nowhere, like the other week, I saw a Game Informer video. Oh. Like they had posted a video of them like reviewing a game. I was like, wait, I thought Game Informer closed. And it turns out they got someone bought the company and reopened up Game Informer.
Oh, nice.
And so it's like its own running thing, and they're not like, yeah, they're under the umbrella of someone else, but they're like their own thing now.
It's not like a magazine for GameStop. It's like its own.
Yeah, Game Informer is Game Informer.
Right.
And they rehired all of their same people, and they're looking to find like publishers to remake or make new and better versions of the magazine. And their Game Informer is going to be right back in the business, and they'll be back in the spin of things again.
Cool.
And I've already put in my email to the website because when they start publishing magazines, I want Game Informer magazines.
That'd be pretty cool.
Because I miss getting Game Informer magazines.
I do too. It did get to a point towards the end of us getting them where I felt like a lot of the stuff that it was showing wasn't that exciting. Mm-hmm. But maybe it was just that time, but who knows, maybe it coming
But they were also so few and far between that like by the time the next one came around, I had like forgotten about it.
Right.
But now that like they're doing it a new way and their way, like I'm excited to see what Game Informer does and where they go. But other than that, that's pretty much all I have for this week.
Yeah, I mean the things that I thought about kind of like towards the last minute we covered like Doom and Thunderbolts.
Right.
I can't stress how much I love Doom. I'm genuinely obsessed. Mm-hmm. It's just so good. But I won't bite your ear off about Doom right now. Maybe once we stop recording. No, I'm just kidding.
Other than that, I think I just asked you this. Is there anything you want to?
No, I'm good.
Well, with that being said, to the listeners, if you've stuck around this long, thank you, and we greatly appreciate it. For those listening on Spotify, a comment or a review would be also greatly appreciated and goes a long way. On YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you are aware of when the next episode comes out. And yeah, word of mouth is probably the best way for us to get listeners and for our channel to grow. And yeah, we appreciate you, your time, and your ears. Yeah, I've been your host, Aaron.
And I've been your host, Brandon.
And yeah, we hope you have a good one.
Peace.